Okay, we are now ready to start our knitting. I'll move my camera back closer to me because that wasn't working on the creating the ridge over the eye on the other video. Okay, so what I need is turquoise first. And if you're interested in this yarn that has a metallic look to it, if you're interested in this yarn, it has a beautiful metallic look to it. This is the metallic hobby. I'm assuming it's hobby. It's a size 4. So, yeah. Type that in, Metallico hobby. I believe it's coming in from somewhere in Europe. But it gets here pretty fast. They're pretty quick about shipping it. And it is a beautiful yarn. I got it in metallic turquoise, metallic green, and metallic blue, and metallic red. Okay, so we are going to be starting our back end. There's actually no tail section like there is with, say, the bunting where you had to start with a tail. There's nothing like that. Okay, so typically it's a chain cast on, so let's start going to my notes. I'm going to need to start writing down my notes. Alright. So, we're getting started on how to follow our draft in order to create this. Now, it says that we're going to use the turquoise and chain cast on 24 pegs. Okay. If it's going to work pretty much exactly like this, I'm probably not going to write it down. It's when I start making changes I'm going to write it down. So I'm going to chain cast on 24 pegs. So that's all the pegs. Okay. I might take that last slip and just put it on the next page. Okay, now. Then it says to just knit a row. So we're going to knit a row. So the good thing about what I'm showing you right now is that it shows you how to basically do the crane. So if you're watching this video, you can get an idea of how you're doing the crane, except you're starting with white instead of turquoise if you're doing the crane here. Okay. So the benefit is you're getting an idea of how to do that. Then the first thing we're going to do is short row. Okay, so we follow our pattern where we don't have too many notes, so we just follow it as is. I'm not going to write notes on that unless I've got a change coming up, okay? Then I'll write notes on it if it's significant enough. Now, what I want to do here is I want to, what does it say, knit 11, wrap and turn, knit 10, wrap and turn, 9, wrap and turn, 8, wrap and turn, 7, 6, 5, 4. Okay, so we're getting down to 4 wraps and turns. All right. Make sure. No, we're actually getting down to 2 wrap and turns. Okay. So, looks like I'll need to make an adjustment there. Alrighty. So we're knitting 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, wrap and turn. And now we're going to knit our way over back to our starting point. And this is where once I get these wrap and turns going, I quit counting and I just keep wrapping and turning, and that makes it easier. So if you've done socks or anything, you can do this. But I will say that this book is not going to be for beginners. This book is for your intermediate and advanced loom knitters, because this is beyond basics at this point. So we're going to go in back and forth, wrap and turn until you have 2 single stitches in here with no wraps and turns. Okay? So you want to go ahead and pause the video, keep wrap and turning until you're down to 2 stitches in the middle between a bunch of wraps and turns, and then we will go from there. Okay, so I've just done knit 2, wrap and turn. Then it says knit 2 together, knit 3, knit 2 together, knit 4, knit 2 together, and this is what that's going to mean. So knit 2, knit 2 together. Okay, knit 3, which means you're going back the other direction because you have a bunch of 2 stitches around there if you kept going. So knit 3, knit 2 together. Back over here, knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, knit 2 together, and continue on increasing out. Okay, so it's just like a heel and a toe. Start where you've finished, work your way back, knit 2 together until you have no more wraps and turns. Yeah. So I think that's accurate. Yeah. Okay. So if something changes on that flow of that, I'll let you know, but you're going back and forth, adding in a wrap and turn. Okay. So pause the video and get that much done. Okay, so in the notes on the row 2, it says knit 11, knit 2 together, wrap and turn. So I'm coming back this direction and getting my last wrap and turn area. So there's my knit 2 together, wrap and turn. This starts to get you to row 3, where it says 20, knit 23, knit 2 together. Okay. And what this is going to do, it's going to keep you from having a hole in the sides. So you're going to just knit all the way around. Okay. And what you have created is a nice little point in the back of the body where you'll be able to add your big old fan tail. Okay. So you'll have created a little triangled area off the back end. Alright. Now, at this point, it says to knit rows 4 and 5. So pause the video and knit for 2 rows. Okay, so just knit round and round for 2 rows, and we'll come back. Okay, now it says on row 6 we're going to be doing a wrap and turn on the lower half of the body. So you're going to knit 23, wrap and turn, knit 10, wrap and turn. You're going to go down to your wrap and turns to 6. Okay, and this section is going to be repeated. So rows 6 through 9 is going to be repeated. So there's going to be a 4-row repeat. So I'll explain how to do row 6 and row 7, and then row 8 and 9 are knit, and then you're just going to repeat it again. And that gets you to row 13. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to knit yourself all the way around the other side. So you're going to knit 23. And you wrap and turn. And you knit 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wrap and turn. Okay. So you continue wrap and turns until you're down to 6 single stitches with wraps and turns around it. You've done socks, you know where we're going with this. Okay. So pause the video, complete your wraps and turns until you have 6 stitches, and I'll explain what that looks like. Okay. So what you have here is 3 wraps and turns. 1, 2, 3, and then you have 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and then you have 3 wraps and turns. Okay. I'm sorry this yarn is dark. It doesn't show up very well. It shows up more like black on the screen. Okay, so what you're going to do is it says to wrap and turn, knit 6. So we've done our last wrap and turn and we've knitted 6, and then it says knit 2 together 3 times. So here we are, we're knitting 3 together, knitting 2 together 3 times. Switching it around. Okay. And that completes row 6. Alright. Then you're going to do row 7 where you knit 12, knit 2 together 3 times and knit 9. So you knit your 12. This is row 7. So you just knit your way around. And then knit 2 together 3 times. And then knit 9. And now you're going to knit rows 8 and 9. So you're going to knit for 2 rows. Okay, so you knit for 2 rows, alright? And then you want to go in and repeat that, see? Okay, so you've done row 6, and you've done row 7. And right now you're going to do row 8 and 9. Alright, and as you see, row 10 through 13 is repeat row 6 through 9. So you're going to repeat it again. Okay, so I'm going to tell you to pause the video, complete that much, and we'll come back and we'll do rows 14. So here soon, we're going to be changing up to blue. So we do our feet. Let's see if we can get it to focus. So after you complete this section 2 times, you're going to come in and you're going to do row 14 and then 2 rows of knit, and then you're going to switch into blue here soon. Okay? So complete all the way to row 13, and we'll come back and I'll do row 14 and we'll go from there. Okay, so now here's where we are to row 14, and this is where we will be incorporating a what I call the feet row. It's basically going to be the top of the leg. And so we're going to knit 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. If you've watched any of the previous videos, this is pretty standard on the feet. And it's a parentheses area. You can see it. Knit 4 for 4 rows, knit 3, knit 2, knit 3, knit 4 for 3 rows, bring marginal loops back on pegs 1 and 4, and knit 2 together, knit 2, knit 2 together. And you repeat the feet section in the next 4 stitches. This is what this looks like. Knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, for 4 rows, so that's row 1. And this is row 2. And this is row 3. And this is row 4. And then we do 3, knit 3, knit 2, knit 3, knit 4, 3 rows. So here's 1, 2, and 3. And then it says to bring the original loops back. If you cannot see those loops, I would suggest before you even start the sledge, put a stitch marker on the first and fourth peg that you're working on, so that all you have to do is pull up and put back onto the peg. Now, what I usually do is follow that line, that connecting line there, pull it back up. And I pull it back up. Okay, so before starting, if you can't see it, make sure that you put a stitch marker on page 1 and 4 on the stitch before you even start, so that when you get to this section, you know what you're doing. So you knit 2 together, knit 2, knit 2 together. So if you can't see the original loops to bring them back right now, before you even start, put a stitch marker on this stitch and on this stitch, and then work as normal. And then when it says to bring the original loops back, you pick it up, put it on the fourth peg, pick it up, put it on the first peg, and do just like we did. Now, I have done the first foot, as I call it, even though it's not a foot. I'm sure any science person out there who delves into the full parts of the animals would know better than me on this. This is what I call it, just to kind of give you an idea of what you're doing. You're going to repeat what we just did here in the next 4 stitches, and then you're just going to knit 2 to finish the row. Okay, so go ahead, pause the video, complete your other foot, and then knit 2 to finish the row, and we'll come back and we'll do the next section. Okay, I have finished row 14, and on rows 15 and 16 it says to knit. So we're going to knit for 2 rows, and so pause the video and knit for 2 rows, and be ready to bring in your blue color. Okay, wow, it doesn't look very different on the camera, does it? Until you put it beside each other. It's a lot different in person. Okay, so knit 2 rows, and then we'll be ready to switch to the blue. Pause the video and get that much done. Okay, so I would say we've basically finished the first half of the body, practically. And we are ready to start the next half. So where you're at in here is right here. Okay, so we've just completed this much of the body, right? At this point, we're completing this much of the body. So what we want to do is we want to switch colors. So I'm going to kind of got to sharpen those. Okay. Alright. Now, fisherman's knot or magic knot. You do a half knot around your base color, and this is how you get it real close. You can go all the way down the base, pull tight, and then wrap and do a half knot around your blue with the turquoise color, and try to get it to knot as close to your other knot as possible, so that when you pull it, it puts resistance. Now, because of the way this is, it's not a big deal if it's not right on the spot. It should blend in nicely. Okay, so what I always do after I do that is I go in and loosen up my stitches. And that usually puts it right where it needs to be. Okay, at this point, it says to repeat rows 6 through 9 again. So I'll show you this. So we're here. Change color to blue. Rows 17 through 24 is to repeat rows 6 through 9 2 times. 6 through 9 2 times. 1, 2. And you're just doing it in blue. Okay. So go back to where we go and do rows 6 through 9 2 times. Go and do it twice. See? 2 times. And then we'll be ready to start our neck area. Okay. So I'll kind of get you started. It's where you knit all the way around and then wrap and turn. So knit 23, wrap and turn, knit 10, wrap and turn, then from there. Okay. So what you'll do is if you're not so sure about this section, go back to that section in the video and repeat rows 6 through 9 again, twice. So do 6 through 9 and then do 6 through 9 again. And what that does is that's 2 sections of short row. And if you're having issues with the tail being up, more pointed up rather than down, there is a way about that. So wrap and turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wrap and turn. Alright, you're to that section. So pause the video and complete it twice. So you can see there's your short row there and there's your short row there. Alright. So complete that twice so that we're ready to be here to do the neck. Alright. If you want more chest area out on your second time, get it down to 4 rather than to 6. If you want more of that chest. If you're fine with how this is and you're just trying to get what looks like a peacock and not get it exact, then you follow it exactly. Okay? So the second time around, if you want more chest jut out here, you want to do it down to 4 rather than down to 6. That's all you do. But you're doing down to 6 and you're doing it twice, and then you're doing the 2 rows in between. And so 6 to 9, 2 times. Alright? And when we come back, we should be ready to start on the neck area. That's what it says. Start working neck. Okay? Alright, so rows 6 through 9, 2 times, and we'll come back. Okay, so you can kind of see what we have here. There's your tail area, there's your opening, and there's your feet, and we've done our chest here. So, if you're making the crane, you're pretty much right here. And you'll see there's a ridge that starts, so it means you're starting on your neck. It's going to work the same, except you're going to be doing 1 row in between your decreases, and you're sticking with white with the crane, so this should be helpful if you're making the crane. Alright, so what it says here is we've changed to blue, and we worked our 6 through 9 twice, which we've done. And then it says we're going to start working the neck, so we're going to knit 12. So you're going to knit 12, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, get you some stitch markers. Okay, we're going to be slipping, and what that is going to create a chain, so that when I say pull chain, you pull the closest one to the peg. It'll make sense when I explain how to start adding it. Actually, it's going to be a little different because I'm doing it in half and half. Because what you're going to do is you're working up this half first, Okay, so if you are wanting to work the crane, just know that this is the half you're working first. This is the half you're working second. Okay, so we're going to be doing the same thing, except it's going to be a little different at the head than what's written. Okay, so now it says that you want to work flat, so we're going to be working over these front 12. So when it says to start working flat over these 12 pegs, it's these 12 pegs you've just done. Okay, so now you're going to slip 1 and knit 11. And I didn't put that in 2 rows, and it needs to be 2 rows. Let me make them. So we're going to do 2 rows of that. As you can see, make your notes as you go on. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to slip 1 and knit 11. Now, when you slip, like we've done, and that's all you're doing is skipping it. You're slipping from behind, you're just skipping it. Okay. Put a stitch marker on the stitch itself. Okay. And trust me, this will make it so much easier for you. Now, I don't typically do this on my own. I usually just knit it, and because I can see it, I've done it enough. But if you're not comfortable with it, this makes it so much easier. Okay. So that is row 1, so that when you go to slip it, you'll be fine. So we're going to slip that one and then knit the row. This will be row 2. Your decreasing will be changed up a little bit. But I'm going to tell you the way you decrease the neck is going to be the same kind of style. But it's written probably be a little different. Okay. So we're going to, alright, so we've done that. So what it says is that we're decreasing over. Well, we should be over here if we were decreasing over, but we're not. So we're over here, so we're going to have to flip-flop that around. Alright. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip the first stitch and decrease over. So what happens is you slip this first stitch, so you skip it, then you decrease over, okay, and then you're going to knit the 2 together. Well, what you'll need to do is move this stitch over, okay. What you may not realize is what you need to do is move that stitch over and knit the 2 together, okay. What this does is keeps you with a chain that you can pick up when you're putting the neck together, okay. That's the reason why you want to do it this route, okay. So, what you might want to do is you're going to do the same thing over here. And it says to do that, knit 6 and then decrease again. Okay. So what you may want to go ahead and do is go ahead and decrease that and move that over. And that'll save you a headache from having to remember it. Okay. So you can just go ahead and decrease it and move that one over. And that way, you don't even have to worry about it. But when you see, let's see if I can get this to focus. Okay, when you see a decrease here and you see a decrease showing at the end, that tells you you can do what I just did. Or you can go in and you can just decrease the end. Okay, and that keeps you from missing it. Sometimes you can miss it and you don't want to do that. Okay, so we've decreased over, we've knitted 2 together, we're going to knit 6. Okay, and knit 2 together because you just decreased, and then knit 1. You're going to slip that stitch. Okay, here's where we do 2 rows. So make sure you put a stitch marker on that slipped stitch, and you're going to knit 2 rows. Okay. I believe we're doing, so there's 1 section, and there's a decrease 2, and 3. So you're going to do 2 rows, decrease, 2 rows, decrease. And you're going to do that a total We just did it once, and it's going to happen 2 more times. Okay, so I guess I'll show you. I'm trying to keep this video down fairly short. So you do row 1. And you knit that over, and the best suggestion is when you do the slip to send the working yarn under the actual stitch marker. If you do it over, it'll make it a little harder to pull back on later. These little finite details actually make a difference in this process. So that's the reason why I'm telling you, when you go to slip, go under the stitch marker. Okay, so this will be row 2, and the decrease will be done a little differently, but it's still the same concept. Okay, so don't freak out when you see it. You're just decreasing on the ends while not touching your slipped stitches. Okay, so when you knit it over, when you go to slip it, go up under the stitch marker. Okay, trust me, it makes it easier and it's worth it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and decrease because that's what we're to. We knitted our 2 rows. So we're going to go ahead and decrease, and I'll move all of this stuff over. Pick that up where it's supposed to be. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to put a stitch marker on that one so I don't forget. Okay. Now, remember, we're going to do the same thing on this side. You can just kind of pick that up if you don't want to stretch the stitches or pull on the pegs too much. You just go ahead and move that stitch over to decrease it. Put your stitch marker back on the peg. Sure, yeah. There. Okay. And then, of course, you slip the first stitch. You've done your decrease. And you knit 2 together. Then you're going to knit 4. And then your decrease, which you've just done already. And you're going to knit 2 together. And then you're going to knit 1. And remember, when you slip, slip under. Okay. And then it says to do 2 rows again between decrease. Okay. Now remember, if you're doing the crane, it's only 1 row between your decrease, and the decrease is exactly the same. Okay, now we're going to do 2 rows again. So here's row. Slip up under that stitch marker. Make sure you put a stitch marker on there. Trust me, this is going to make it way easier when we get to the other half. You can try to skip this part. You can, and just sew up your neck. But this makes it so much easier where you don't have to worry about it. It's seam's not going to come undone and that kind of thing. Alright, so then we're going to knit our over. This will make row 2, and then we'll be ready to decrease again. Okay, which is going to be our last decrease. Alright, so we're going to move that over. So always keep this one as your slip. Don't be decreasing it over. It's going to make it hard to kind of work with later. Okay, so we're going to pull that off. Go ahead and crease it over so that that's done. But if you see that on both sides, just know that's what you're up to. Just going to go ahead and decrease it. Alright, so slip 1, decrease, knit 2 together. then knit 2, then decrease, knit 2 together, and then knit 1. Alright, now, here's where things get interesting. Now, here's where I'll need to start making notes because changes start happening. Okay, so for here, I have me doing 12 rows. So I don't start the black and white section, the white and blue section just yet. I start that on row 53. Okay, so I'm going to just do 12 rows of back and forth. Okay, so this is where we will pause the video. So it's a simple 12 rows, slip 1, knit, what, 5? Slip 1, knit 5 for 12 rows. So slip 1, knit 5, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then slip 1. Do not forget to add your stitch marker. Okay, you're going to do this for 12 rows, and then we'll come back and we'll be ready to start the head. Okay, so pause the video and get that much done. Okay, so I've done my 12 rows. You can see all the stitch markers showing up. Okay, so technically we are starting to get to here, and we are hitting the red here on the crane kind of section. So there is an option here. It says that you're going to do 1 row of the white, blue, and white. But if you don't want to start that quite so quickly, you can go ahead and do the white, blue, and white, and then do the short row with the white, blue, and white. Or you can go ahead and do that blue, and then it'll have you repeat that, and that's when you can switch over to that. So there's a design decision here if you want to make it. Okay. So from the looks of it, it may need to be done a short row first, because looking at my crane, that's somewhere in here, and we don't really want the white and blue to start until here. So what I'm going to do is make a design decision. I need a little smaller pen for this. I'm just writing it down. I'm going to write it down in my notes. Then I want to do this a little differently. So, yeah. So I'm making a note here on the deck. So it's 2 white, 2 blue, and 2 white. I'm going to actually not do 2 sections of white like I'm in the other birds. Okay, so that's a design change that I've done, and I've written it down. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and do 1 more row. Instead of the 13, we're going to do, yeah, instead of the 12, we're going to do 13. Okay, so we're going to do 1 more row. And now what we're going to do is row 54, which is a rapid turn. Okay. So, we're here where we're going to slip 1, knit 4, wrap and turn, knit 4, wrap and turn, knit 3, wrap and turn, knit 2, wrap and turn, knit 2 together 2 times. Then slip 1, knit 3, knit 2 together 2 times. Okay, and that'll make sense. So, alright, so you're going to slip 1, and then you're going to knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, wrap and turn, knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, wrap and turn, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, wrap and turn, 2, wrap and turn, and then knit 2, and then knit 2 together 2 times, and then you're going to slip it. Okay. Now, keep this in mind. You're going to be repeating this again, but you're going to end up doing it with 2 different color. Okay. And I'll show how that's done, because you're going to be doing it on the bottom side too. Okay. Now, you're going to slip 1, and then you're going to 3, 1, 2, 3, knit 2 together 2 times. Okay. Now, put it up under. Okay. Go ahead and put a stitch marker on there so we're not forgetting, because we're going to need this for the other half of the neck. Alright, now, at this point, we've done that once. We're going to want to repeat it, but we're going to be changing over to white. Okay, so what we've done is this first section here, we're now to here. Okay, so we're going to switch up. We need a white, which I have one right here. And I'm going to go ahead and just add the color. I'm not going to change the color. So I'm just going to do a couple of half knots on the edge here. And normally I go in and I have 2 bobbins of white on small sections like this. And what I normally do is I'm working one over here and one over here, but this is such a small section, it's not necessary on this, okay? But if you're working a bigger section, let's say like my blue jay or the macaw, you have a bobbin over here and you can be working from a wing skein over here when it comes to your white sections if you have a much bigger section in between. And that way it keeps it nice and clean and doesn't give you a gappy look when you go to stuff. But I don't think it's going to be necessary to do that with this one. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're going to slip 1, knit 1, okay, in white, and then pick up your blue, knit 2, pick up your white, knit 1, wrap and turn, okay, then you're going to knit 1, pick up your blue, knit 2, pick up your white, wrap and turn. Now you'll notice I've wrapped and turned and I'm picking up the blue underneath it. That makes it tighter, okay? And then you're going to knit 2, pick up the white, drop the blue, pick up the white, wrap and turn, pick up the blue where it covers both, where it grabs it in, say, and then you're going to knit 2, knit 2 together 2 times. Okay. Then you're going to come back over here. Oops, I think I meant to do that. Knit together 2 times until I feel like I messed up a little bit. A huge never mind. Alright, so if you're here, then you're going to pick up the white and then knit two together 2 times. And I didn't do the extra wrap and turn. That isn't going to make or break it. All right, missed it. Okay. Then you're going to slip one after you put a stitch marker on there and then knit one. Then you're going to pick up the blue, knit two, pick up the white, knit two together, two. Okay. Now, it has you repeating that again. Okay. Ends up being 3 times, I think. So there's that one, then that time. Okay. So there's your second time. And then you're going to be working over how many rows? Like this. Let's see. It's 3, 4. So 4 rows doing the white, blue, white thing. Okay. So when you're doing that step, you might want to write it down because it can get confusing. All right. So now what we're doing is we're just going to go back and forth. I say 4 rows. Yeah, we're just going to go back and forth 4 rows. So all you do is slip one, knit one, change your color, knit two, change your color, knit two. Okay, and then add stitch mark. So you're going to do that over 4 rows. So pause the video and complete 4 rows, and then we'll come back and we'll be working, I believe, the beak section. So we're going to be switching to cream, or I may just go ahead and work with the white. Okay, so according to this, we're ready to start the beak area. And I've marked out how many rows. There's a whole bunch of rows, and I didn't want to do that many. So I think we're giving it where it's just like this much, which is, you know, they do have a shorter beak. So there's so many normal rows before changing it. Okay. So what I am doing here is I have changed to cream, but I may just stick with white, or I can change to cream. It doesn't matter if I don't like it in white. White's easy enough to kind of use an acrylic paint pen. So I may just go ahead and change to white completely and do this. So this is a design decision when you're working it, okay? So I think what I'm going to do is just stick with white. So I'm going to need to tie off my blue. I'm not going to need it for the rest of this half. So I'm just going to put that to the side. And what I'm going to do is, okay. So right now I am starting the beak, and I'm deciding I'm just going to do white. The bottom half is going to be black. Alright, so what I'm going to do is slip one, knit, and I'm going to tie off that blue there. So that it doesn't go moving around. Okay, then I'm going to knit my way over. Okay, so I'm going to knit the rest of the way over. Alright, so we started on the beak. Now, it has me doing the decrease thing. Yeah. And it's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times we're only doing it on one side. Okay. So keep that in mind. I'm going to show you that. So you know you're not doing it like you were. Okay. So if you look at this, it's decreasing only on one side where you start. There's no decrease over here. So this is where it changes up a little bit, but it's decreasing every single row at the beginning. Okay, so you're going to have 4 rows. So how you want to do that is you want to go ahead and decrease over, and then you want to move your slip stitch over. Because remember, you don't really want to touch those so that you can easily add them back. And then you're going to slip the first stitch, knit 2 together. So you've decreased, you're going to knit 2 together, and then knit 3. Okay. And then, of course, you're slipping underneath. Put your stitch marker. Your beak is not long with the peacock, so you have to keep that in mind. Alright, so you want to decrease over, move your slip stitch over. You can kind of snug that up a little bit. Okay, so you've decreased, you slipped your first stitch, knit 2 together, and knit those 2. Okay, slip under another stitch marker. You're thinking, dang, you're getting down the line here. Yes, I am. We're going to be attaching everything, I promise. Okay, so that's our second one. Go ahead and decrease again. Move this stitch over. Snug it up. And knit the 2. Okay. And I say we're doing this 4 times? Yeah, okay. Then we put another stitch marker in. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing on the other side, but it's going to switch up a little bit. So we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So you're going to decrease over, and yes, you're getting onto that side. Okay. And then knit 2 together. Okay. At this point, drawstring bind off. Cut your tail. This is where I wrap, pull through, wrap, pull through. Okay. Now, we want to see what we got, don't we? Look at that. Right. See that? That's what you got. So, that's the upper part of your head. Alright. Now we're going to go and do the other half. Okay. This is where it changes up, and it says it changes up. We're pretty much wanting to do the exact same thing we just did over here, over there, including the wraps and turns in the amount that we did. Because unlike in the crane where it's smooth, where they usually are very smooth through here, that is not the case with, there's more of a bubble through here. And you can see that on the pictures, on both of them, there's more of a bubble. So we're going to create that bubble. And we're just going to do the exact same thing that we just did on this side. On this side. The only difference is you're going to be doing the whites on the side, but when you get to that section, you're going to go black where the blue was. And then when you get to the beak area, you're going to go black. Okay. So, that's where it's going to change up. Alright, so let me explain how this is going to go. Alright, so we're going to pick back up our blue, and we're going to the other side of the loom. Okay. I'm going to do a slip knot. Okay, slip knot. Alright, so here we're going to put this on here. Okay, and what you're going to do is, this is where it's important to start adding. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to pull the closest to your peg. Alright, this is the stitch marker closest to this peg. You're going to put it on the loom, on that very end peg there. Okay, so what you do is you're going to slip one, and you're going to knit over. Yes, I'm knitting my tail in. It's a bit long. Okay, so when you get here, you're going to pull chain is what it's called. You're going to pull your chain and go ahead and take that stitch marker off. And you're going to purl the two stitches together. If you knit the two stitches, you will create a chain on the side of your neck. Okay, so now I'm going to pull that up. Because remember, we did 2 rows and then we decreased. Okay, so this is row 2. Alright, so we're going to slip our first peg. We're going to knit our way over. And you're going to be amazed. You're going to find that you get to the end and then suddenly there's like a neck and there's a head. And it's going to be really cool, I promise. Okay, so you're going to knit your way over, and then when you get there, you're going to purl together. Okay. Alright, now, instead of adding stitch markers, you're pulling the chain. Okay, so at this point, we're working just like we did on the other side. So now we're decreasing, except we're pulling the chain every time we go and do a slip. So remember, you're decreasing on both sides at the same time. So we've done our 2 rows. So you're going to go ahead and move that over. And go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Move that over. Gone. Alright, then if you don't want to happen to forget the pull the chain, my suggestion is, if you see it in there and you don't want to forget it, go ahead and pull it up and put it on there. Right? It's the next closest stitch marker to the peg. Okay? Always working from the closest, not the farthest. Alright, that's important. Alright. So we've done our decrease on both sides. Okay, and then we're going to do that, knit the 2 together, and then knit your way over, and then you've done your decrease already. Don't you love that that's done? Knit the 2 together, and then it says pull chain, and then purl 2 together. Alright, now we're doing 2 rows, so we're going to pull this chain up here, and put it on. Then we're going to slip the first stitch, knit your way over, and remember you're going to pull the chain and purl the 2 together at the end. Okay, and this is okay. And do the same thing over here. Okay. Slip the first peg, knit your way over, pull chain. Remember, you're doing 2 rows in between your decreases. Right? So you're going to decrease this time. And you purl your 2 together, pull chain, purl your 2 together. Okay, so we're going to decrease again this time. So we're going to go ahead and move that one over, and then move over. Okay, so that's a decrease already done, right? When we make ourselves easier, go ahead and do the decrease over here. And then we're going to pull the chain up. Make sure it's the next closest one, then get intertangled. And put it on that end peg. Trust me, it makes for much easier closure of your neck. Okay? Alright. So as you see, you're doing the same thing, except you're just pulling a chain on the end, right? So you knit the 2 together. Go over. You've done your decrease, so you knit the 2 together, and then when you get to the end, you purl 2 together. Then remember, you're doing 2 rows. Go ahead and find your next closest stitch. Pull that chain back in there. Okay, so you're doing 2 rows. Don't forget. So slip 1, then make your way over. Pull 2 together. Slip 1. Don't forget. It's just easier to remember to pull your chain when you're working your way over. To just go ahead and pull it. I don't write it like that. I write it, as you go. But there's things I don't want to forget about. And so if I can go ahead and do it, I do it. Okay. So that was row 1, and this is row 2. Decreasing the next one. So we've just made our life a little easier on this one because we're going to just repeat the exact same thing we just did. Top half on the bottom half of the net. Alright, now we're decreasing again. Then you're going to decrease over here. This is a decrease peg. Decrease rows, I call it. And then you're going to pick the next closest, and while that may look like it, it's not. Find your next closest. Get them intertangled. Alright. I'm sorry that the yarn shows up so dark on me. Okay, so you've already done your decrease. You knit 2 together. And then you knit 2. Decrease. Knit 2 together. Pull chain. Purl 2 together. Now it's ready. Alright. At this rate, if you remember, you do 13 rows. You're going to slip 1, knit 4, pull chain for 13 rows. Okay, so I'm going to tell you to pause the video and get your 14 rows done, and we'll be ready to start the next section. Alright, and you should be able to start seeing how it's all connecting together, and you're not going to have to sew anything up. I love this method. I do it a lot. It saves you time and it makes the connection much stronger. Okay, so 13 rows, well 12 now, back and forth, slip 1, knit 4, pull chain, purl 2 together for 12 more rows, and then we'll come back and we will start the next section. And remember, we did a design change here, so you'll probably want to write all that down. Okay, as you can see, you have your neck developing here. That's nice. Okay, now what we want to do is I'm going to actually change colors. Okay, and this is where you go ahead and you do your short row section, where you do your wrap and turn and that kind of thing. So I'm switching over to black officially because there is a darker area that shows up. Okay, so I meant you get a general guideline and then you work your way into where you think you got it. Okay, don't be afraid to change as you go. Write notes when you do. Okay, so I'm going to kind of loosen these up. Alright, so what I'm going to do is slip one, and I'm going to knit 4, wrap and turn, knit 4, wrap and turn, knit 3, wrap and turn, knit 2, wrap and turn, knit 2, knit 2 together, pull chain, and purl 3 together. You know what I mean? Only together. Purl 3 together. Here. And so I don't forget, I'll go ahead and put the chain over here. And then I will slip 1, knit 3, knit 2 together, pull chain, and actually purl 3 together. Okay. At this point is when we're doing white and black, where we're doing exactly the same thing that we did up here. Okay, we're doing the exact same thing we did up here. Instead of it being blue, it's going to be black, and this is going to be white. And then when you switch to beak, it's just going to be black. So with that being said, I'm going to tell you to pause the video and complete that again with whites on this side, black down the middle, black for the bottom half of the beak, and then we should be able to see what we've got, okay? So finish the head up, and then when we come back, we will be looking at stuffing and finishing up the body so that we're prepared to start doing the wings and that kind of, okay? So go ahead and finish up the head, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we're to our drawstring bind off on this, and okay. Funny thing is, it looks like it started bringing in a line already. Sometimes yarn works with you. Alright, now you can see there is your neck and your head. Okay, and there's your a bunch of tails in there. You can try to cut them so you're not going to mess with them so much. Okay, and then you're going to need to stuff. Okay, so Looks like the neck could have stood to be a little longer. If that's the case, then you make a note that you want to do 15 longer if you want a longer neck. This neck does look like it could stand to be longer. You make notes of that, and that way you can keep up with it. Now, you'll have loose sections like this here. All you do is you go in and you tighten them up. Okay, it's not a big deal to do that, and I'll show you how to do that. You just take a extra piece of yarn when you're going in to start cinching the eyes and that kind of thing. What you normally do is you go in and you adjust those areas that have open spots. I do a lot of shaping. I will sit here and I will shape and shape and shape. Okay, and that's what you see me doing. So there may not need to be as much stuffing in the neck as you might think. Okay, so I think the neck could have stood to been a little longer. I'll make a note of that. That I think it needed to have been, instead of 13 rows, do 15 rows. Okay. Alright, so you'll want to sew up your back end here, okay, and you can see where you're at. Alright, so there's your leg area where you're going to add things. Okay, so from what I can see, I need to make a decision if I want to keep that or not. Now, I'm going to do a sewn up area. Sometimes, so notes I would make. Alright. Okay, so we've kind of got an idea of what we got here. The body looks fine to me. I don't think the body needs much of anything done. So for instance, I think I would add a short row area here, not just the one. We do 2 short rows, so I would say let's make notes. So we want to do this twice, 2 times in the blue. Okay, and then to stick with what we need, I think we'll do the 4 rows. I think, yeah, we can continue to do the 4 rows, and we do an extra one. I might just do that. So then we need to take out one of those to where we only do it once. Yeah. So, making notes, we want, instead of 12 rows, we're doing 13. And so 13 looks a little short. I'd say we could go, let's go 17. So 17 rows. Okay. So make a note there. So when you do this, you have sometimes you need to do 17 rows in here after you do your decrease. I like that. That's got more of the gradients that a Peacock has. Okay. The only thing I'm not liking is the head. You do have the bulge there. I may go try to find a thinner black. That could have been part of my problem. So make sure that if you get a black that you're using a thinner one. That might be causing me problems here because it was a little bulkier than the white and the blue. Okay, so I think the neck a little bit longer would have done it. I think the body is fine. Okay, so we're going to do 17 rows instead of 13 through here. Alright, so we make that adjustment. 17 rows, we're going to do an extra wrap and turn here. By doing that, we're adding 2 rows. So what you'll need to make sure you do is add an extra row somewhere in through here, because you're going to take out that and add it here. Alright, so you need to remember to add rows at the bottom. So instead of it being, say, 4 rows before you start your decrease, it probably needs to be 6 rows. 6 rows. So, because if you're adding one here, you're adding a row here, and you're taking one out, you'll need to do 2 extra rows here. So what you'll need to make a note of is on the second half, you'll do the 17 rows, but then you'll need to do, where is it? Instead of 4 rows, it'll need to be 6 rows. Okay, so you make your notes, alright? So I know I need to make a change, alright? Otherwise, I think it looks pretty good. You usually weave that in, you'll sew that down so that it stays down like that. And you'll want to do that with the adjusted version too. Okay. And then you can cinch those eyes in, and you can do a black streak through here. But as you can see, you can make it work if you want. If you're fine with this, you can do that. But I'm going to go redo it. But I'm not going to show how to redo it because you've already seen the majority of it. Okay, so this is why it's important to do a draft. It's not always going to come out perfect the first time. Okay, and that's what's important to know. Okay, and so you make those adjustments where you need to. And when you make those adjustments, you make it again. Make sure that's exactly what you want. And usually, a second or third time, usually you get where you're after and where you're going and where you want to be. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, you can redo the body or you can work with what we've done here. It looks like it'll be fine if you wanted to work with what we've done here and not redo it. But if you're going to redo it like I do, when you go to part 4, which will be below, that I'm already going to have redone the body, and we're going to be working on these wings and the tail feathers. Okay, so you can either keep this as it is, finish up the body, and then we're going to move to part 4, which will be in the link below. As remember, keep in mind, this is a design process. I'm explaining that you don't always get it perfect the first time around. You do a guesstimate on what you want to do, and you make adjustments as necessary. Okay? So, remember, this is the design process. This didn't take long. Okay? So, go ahead, pause the video. Actually, stop the video. Redo your body if you want, or adjust the one that we've done. Otherwise, we'll be needing to move to part 4 to start working on the wings and the tail feathers and all the extra things to finish the design. Okay, so I kind of wanted to do a real quick record on this video. I redid the body, and you can see my head. I still needed to do some touch-up sewing on the head with some of the gaps. Not a big deal. You can see how the extra worked, and there's a little bit of a bulge down here, but otherwise I think that it worked better for the length of the head, and you can kind of see how the body worked. And I went ahead and I did some brush pen up through there, and I did a color difference on the beak. Okay, and that saves you a lot of effort on changing color and that kind of thing. Okay, so I wanted to kind of show you that, and because this is the body kind of video, and we're going to be moving to the tail next. So go to part 4, but here's what the adjusted body looks like. Okay, so let's go to part 4.